How come your hair's not blowing, Chris, in the breeze?
I know. It needs to be washed. It's just a little.
He needs to get a fan, give it that effect. An
Andre
umbrella
looks
drink.
pretty good.
And Alan, how was your time?
Awesome.
I bet
Yeah,
it was.
good. We had a blast. We had a blast.
I bet.
Where'd you go, Al?
We went to St. Lucia.
Oh, nice.
And we stayed at a place called Enchastenet. It's a kind of architecturally designed thing on up the cliff. So it was a lot of climbing, a lot of up and down the hill.
Where was it? In that town in the north end?
No, it's down near Soufrière. It's near the Fort Vieux, down by the big airport.
Okay.
About an hour from the big airport, but not very many miles. It's quite a place. It was interesting, but that's the St. Lucia's Scuba Diving Center is right on the property there, and the mountain biking facility is right there. So my kids both do those things, so it was useful for them to be.
All right, kids, we do have a quorum, so I'm going to get this meeting started. So we'll call it to order. And Dennis, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance
Pledge
to the
allegiance.
United States of America
America.
and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation.
Under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Thank you. So, hi, Liz. Let's see. Does our recorder, who's our recorder tonight? Who's our recording person? Are they
They
on?
were sent out to the two, Sharon and the Universal Telesco or one.
Right.
I'm not sure who will be attending, but it is recording, so.
Okay, so you're recording it electronically,
Yeah,
and if we don't have an official recorder on the line, would you mind, Michelle, taking the attendance to forward to them?
yep.
All right, thank you. Okay, Doc, where are you?
I just talked with him, John. He's logging in now.
Okay, so greetings, everyone. And we have a pretty packed agenda tonight and some off agenda items that have come in and that we may need to discuss as well. While we're waiting for Doc to attend, I'll just report as my chairman's report that there's really not that much to report other than we've got activity going on. We're doing pushbacks where we need to. We're engaging the Harbor Masters Association and group to deal with the lawsuit, and we don't know if we're joining it, but at least hopefully we're going to do an amicus brief to that lawsuit regarding harbor use and approvals and the validity of approvals by the commission. So that I find to be very interesting because big picture, it affects all the harbors up and down the food chain in Connecticut. So we need to be very proactive in that. So Doc has joined us. Hi, Doc. Take yourself off mute, and we'll go right into your end of the agenda, application review.
No, thank you, John. I apologize for being late here. Several other things going on. The first application that we have on review is a CAM application that was proposed by this Plague Connecticut LLC, which is an application that we had reviewed some time back, which has gone through a number of modifications. The applicant proposes further programmatic change to previously applied or approved application. Back in January 2019, they had made several proposals, and that they subsequently modified that to change the venue of what they plan to put in. This is in the Lillian August building on Water Street. The concern of the Harbor Management Commission was based on the fact that they had parking spaces along Water Street, which also involved, I think it was Day Street. And one of our comments, and I have our previous comments. One of our comments was basically the operation dealing with the parking and the runoff from those parking lot areas. I asked Ms. Suchi to attend the meeting and give us an overview of that proposal, of that modification. Is she here?
Yes, Liz is here.
Thank you, I am.
There we are. Yeah, sorry, Liz.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Liz Suchi. I'm a partner at Carmody, Torrance, Sandeck, and Hennessy. And also on the line this evening is John Greenspan, one of the representatives of the owner of the property. Several years ago, the Lillian August building, which is about 30,000 square feet, or at least a portion of the building that's 30,000 square feet, was proposed to be converted into an entertainment center, having a variety of different opportunities inside bocce courts, eating venues, things like that. That was approved by the Zoning Commission, and this commission also reviewed it in connection with coastal area management policies and resources. There is a 77 space parking lot diagonally opposite, and it fronts on Water Street. The back of the parking lot has both the Marine Division and also the old Sono Seaport restaurant. As part of that approval several years ago, my client also proposed to create a 55 plus or minus space parking lot on Day Street. Right now, that lot is just vacant and it's gravelly or dirt. About a year ago, District Sono returned to the Zoning Commission with some changes to the interior programmatic space. And one of the things that was suggested was, and approved, was to have a brewery on the inside, axe throwing, some indoor food court space, a party space called Sparkalicious, and also a fencing club. Well, in light of COVID and other considerations, we're back before the zoning staff and also you to advise you that some of those programmatic components will not be moving forward. And instead, the space is going to be dedicated to, in large measure, a squash club with 6 or 7 squash courts, and then a gym space as well. So some of the other more active space uses are going to be removed from the programmatic space, and it'll be more the squash court and then the gym space. The parking that is available for this site, both the 77 spaces on Water Street and the 55 spaces that will be created, plus a few on-street spaces that are within our client's property line, are more than sufficient for zoning. And the parking lot that is to be created on Day Street will be improved with a stormwater management system that this commission saw, that the Zoning Commission saw, Department of Public Works has seen, and all of the requirements by this commission and any others will, of course, be implemented as part of any modification that moves forward. So it's nothing to the exterior of the building. It's all interior space modifications. Parking lot on Day Street is going to move forward with all the protections, best management practices, and the like, and the Water Street parking lot will remain as is. If you have any questions of me or of John Greenspan, we're happy to answer them.
Does anyone have any questions on that?
No, just a level of disappointment. I was looking forward to throwing axes, but
I think we all were.
and I got a couple of targets that we could use too, but
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll iterate our previous letter, which involved best management practices for construction, and the fact that you had planned to renovate the parking area to make sure that water runoff and catch basins are intact. Is that correct, Liz?
That's correct. The same conditions of approval from the original review by this commission would apply again, and we're happy to implement those.
So we'll make that motion. If anyone wants to accept, to second that, we'll move forward.
I'll
Dennis?
second.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. Just one quick question, Liz. There's no restaurants being proposed where dumpsters with oil displacement and things like that will be.
No, there are not.
Oh, okay. All right.
John?
With the applicant, just one comment on the Day Street.
Jeff wants to weigh in.
Did you want to?
The Day Street parking lot, that's a Rose Tiso design that has a stormwater management water program in it. So that's and the new plan is more sports oriented and not rooftop venue. It's just unfortunately a victim of the pandemic, and so it's going to be a squash facility and another ninja gym, so sort of a trampoline type thing for kids. A much less dense use than the 30,000 foot food pub and entertainment arcade. There'll be less body.
No. Thank you. Oh, Jeff, you have a question?
John, is the motion to find this, even though we don't care about the interior uses, though, to find it
Well, we do
consistent?
care about the interior uses, but yes, yes.
But to find that it's consistent with the plan because of our understanding that it will result in an improvement in stormwater management.
Stormwater management. Yeah, we have that built into the previous, that we support this report, any measures that improve waste, water runoff into the harbor. So
But the motion is consistent with the plan, not no objection.
That's correct.
All right.
That's correct. I'm sorry. Yes. Okay, moving. Michelle, you there? Is Michelle there?
Yep.
Michelle, could you send John Hiltz the connection to the website, or to the Zoom meeting here?
Yeah, I emailed him. Hopefully I sent it to the email, Mr. Hiltz at
Yes.
Jarl. Yeah, I sent him one, so hopefully he got it, or
Yeah, because he just emailed me asking us to send it. And I tried to send that during the conversation here. All right. Any event. All right, we'll move along on a second application, which is 72 Shorefront Park in South Norwalk. This is a CAM application. The Shorefront Park Properties LLC proposes to construct a new single-family dwelling on a vacant lot.
John, excuse me, you need to vote on the last motion.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Jeff. I've got about, you can't imagine, I'm several things on my mind here between, I'm sorry. Take a vote on that last motion, please.
So your motion is basically, John,
Yeah,
that the prior motion and concerns and standard language will prevail on this application as well.
Yeah, so we have, that's right. It's consistent that the plan is consistent with the harbor management plan. And like, for example, our certainly standing statements go that we're concerned about potential adverse impacts of stormwater runoff of previous impervious parking areas and drainage in Norwalk Harbor. They plan to make that correction with regard to catch basins and water runoff. And again, it's indication that we support implementation of runoff reduction and low impact development practices pursuant to the city stormwater management. And again, what we had put in previously was that the applicant require employment appropriate best management practices during the construction and renovation of the 85 Water Street area. And again, basically dealing with the parking facility that regarding catch basins and sump pumps and oil grit separators of that type, that we certainly support that. And we had a second. All right. And all those in favor? Aye. All right.
Aye.
All right, moving forward. Our next application, again, as I pointed out, is 72 Shorefront Park, South Norwalk. This is a new single-family dwelling on a vacant lot. And as the proposal dwelling will increase the site's of impervious surface, the applicant proposes to install two subsurface concrete infiltration galleries in the front and the rear of the house. The roof and the driveway runoff will be directed to the infiltration galleries, and the backyard lawn has been designed to pitch toward the rear. There's a seawall that runs, which is flush with the soil grading. And what the applicant plans to do is to dig down and build a stone trench that is designed to capture any water runoff and allowed to permeate through adjacent soil. Accordingly, no work is to be done waterward. Liz, would you like to?
Sure.
No, I don't have, Liz, I don't have the actual design handy.
We have that, and we'll screen share in just a minute if that's okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Pinto. Again, for the record, I'm Liz Succi, partner at Carmody Torrance, and I represent the applicant Shorefront Park Properties. This is a very similar application to one that you saw in the summer for 70 Shorefront Park. This is directly adjacent to that property at 72. It is a vacant piece of land that is zoned B residence, and it's on the western bank of the Norwalk River. It's about 10,000 square feet. The proposal is to construct a single-family dwelling that complies with all requirements of zoning, and will also be finished first floor will be at or above the minimum FEMA flood elevation of 11, plus all of the systems below the finished floor will also be at or above the 11 minimum FEMA flood elevation. No work is proposed on the seawall or seaward of the seawall. And let's see, on the call tonight is Tom Quinn of Peak Engineers. He's the civil engineer that prepared the plan, the drainage report, along with Kate Throckmorton, who prepared the coastal resource and policies analysis. So and also on the call is Dennis Peters, the project architect, in case you have any questions of Dennis. But if you would indulge us for just a minute, I would just like Kate Throckmorton to walk through the coastal resources and policies, and then Tom can walk you through the drainage system, the stormwater drainage system that's proposed. Tom, can you share a plan for Kate?
Yep.
That'd be great.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Kate Throckmorton, licensed landscape architect with Environmental Land Solutions. I asked Tom to just put up the survey of the lot with north to the top of the page, Shorefront Park to the west of the site. The property extends over the existing seawall, which is that heavy dark line, with tidal wetlands that run east of that seawall. And certainly the coastal hazard flood areas encompass the entire site, with VE zone elevation 14 and AE zone elevation 11 compromising portions of the site, where the VE zone runs along the shore and the AE zone runs along the slightly higher portions of the site. The existing site westward of the seawall is been maintained as an existing lawn for a long period of time. There is one single tree, European beech, that's located within the middle of the site, and that will be removed for the development. There's no other significant vegetation on the property. The off-site resources include intertidal flats, shorelands, and shellfish concentrations that are within the Norwalk Harbor, but these are closed, and they're closed for recreational use. We believe this site plan is consistent with the coastal use policies because it will utilize the existing storm and water, public water and sewer that's available on Shorefront Road. It's within the developed residential neighborhood. The new development will be within the existing lawn area and be limited to that and not extend beyond the existing seawall. And the proposed house will be above the required elevation of the coastal hazard areas. Tom can go over all the infiltration. I think it was highlighted that we are going to be infiltrating all the stormwater and follow that best management practice. I'm going to turn it over to Tom.
Okay, my name is Tom Quinn. I'm with Peak Engineers. I am a licensed professional engineer registered in the state of Connecticut. Can you still see my screen there?
Yes.
Okay, I had a little technical problem there. So this is the existing site, and this is the proposed site. You could see the driveways coming in here, and this is the dwelling, and this is the rear patio, and as Kate mentioned, this is the site wall. The seawall runs right along here. So this project proposes, again, it's a vacant lot. So this project proposes to construct a new residence. As Liz said, it's going to have an elevation of 12.2. So the project is obviously going to result in an increase in impervious area, roughly 3,400 square feet. So what we propose to do is do our best to protect the resource. And the way we look, or at least I look at these resources, is you've got the tidal wetlands, which is obvious. But in the shorefront park, there's also a catch basin system. There's a catch basin up here to the north, and I believe there's one down to the south. So any water from our driveway is going to run into that street. So we obviously want to protect the we want to mitigate the water leaving our property before it enters the street and enters those catch basins, because they're going to be tied directly into the tidal water as well. So we look at protecting it in both directions. So what we're proposing is, using best management practices, we are going to pre-treat all the water before we infiltrate it. So the driveway here, and let me change to my colored sketch. So this driveway area here is going to enter the catch basin, which will be located on our property. That'll be a catch basin with a 2-foot sump and a hood to catch all floatables. And then that'll go into this gallery system. In addition, this brown roof area will also be tied into the catch basin and then into the gallery. So again, the roof area and the driveway is all being pre-treated before it enters the infiltration units.
So you're backflowing it from that catch basin into the
correct
system that you're building. Where does it discharge?
There is no discharge from the catch basin.
So it stays and it just permeates into the ground.
Well, the water, the catch basin can be built with either a bottomless type style, so we set the base on stone, or I'm not looking at the detail, or it can obviously have a solid base, but there is no direct, I guess what you're asking me is, does the catch basin pipe to anything besides the gallery? The answer is no.
Okay, but now, where does it go now? Now it goes into another catch basin and goes into the system?
No, that's a catch basin that we're going to install. There is no.
Okay, so that's not existing. All right.
No,
Fine.
we're not tying to any town system.
Okay.
That's the entire methodology I want to use here, is that we want to be separate, treat our water separately from the town system and intercept it before it hits the town system. So yeah, the driveway water will enter our brand new catch basin. The roof drains will enter our brand new catch basin, and those will be piped into our gallery units. Okay.
Yep.
The rear of the building will also enter this sediment trap, which is located right here. So we've got a sediment trap there, and there's a detail on the plan for that. And it's similar. It's going to have a 2-foot sump, and it will be piped directly into these gallery units, which is this dark blue area here. So the only area that we're not collecting, where there's a potential for impact to the resource, would be this rear lawn area, which is why we're proposing this very shallow perimeter drain. So that's basically a 1-foot wide stone trench, which is going to have stone to grade, and that's going to allow the water to infiltrate into the ground. And the reason we're doing that is because the top of the seawall, the elevation of the top of the seawall is the same as the elevation of the top of the lawn. So if we didn't do that, the lawn would just run right over the top of the wall into the tidal flat, and we don't want to do that. So we're going to do that perimeter trench drain. And all these facilities have been designed for the water quality volume coming off the impervious areas. And the mean high water mark is 5.4 for this property, and the bottom of our systems are up at 7 or higher. So we are providing 18 inches of infiltration area or depth before we get to the mean high water. One of the things I kind of glossed over was we did deep soil testing and perks on this lot, and it's all bankground gravel, just like what we had on the number 70 when we presented that to you last fall. It's all bankground gravel. Perk rates are better than 1.10 inches, so we know that we've got good perk rates here. So just summarizing, we performed all these calculations to meet the City of Norwalk 2017 drainage manual. We've also used perform calculations to meet the 2002 Connecticut water quality manual for water quality volumes and recharge volumes. And what we're doing is we're implementing those best practices for this site.
Is there any maintenance requirements or proposed or future requirements for the sumps or the galleries?
I totally recommend that both of those systems be maintained at least twice a year. There aren't a lot of mature trees in this area, so you're not going to get a lot of leaf litter. Most of the debris is probably going to be from lawn clippings, but still, they should be cleaned out. And like I said, they are a minimum of 2 foot inside diameter, so they can easily be cleaned out with post hole diggers by the
So is
homeowner.
that part of the proposal to some entity? Or should we include that in our language, Jeff and John?
That's what we typically include in
Maintenance, we usually
the
include
language, that if there are.
sort of maintenance schedule.
Yep.
Do you have any data to support, well, I guess you don't know exactly how long it would take for the infiltration unit to sort of fill or capture residuals? There's no, I mean, that's what, any data on that? In other words, how long between, let's say, remediation or perhaps cleaning out of the infiltration units?
No, I don't have any data. The design goal was to pre-treat everything before it goes into there. That's why the detail, if you look at the set of plans, detail E2, which is the catch basin, you can see that that has a 24-inch deep sump and it's got a T-trap on it, which means that the pipe leaving the catch basin has a T on it so that floatables will not flow into the galleries.
I did see that on the application. That's right. Yes.
Okay, and the sediment trap, which is at the rear of the building, which is capturing the rear roof drains, is designed the exact same way. It's going to have a trap. So based on my history, these systems are going to last for a long, long time, as long as we have routine maintenance in those units. So I don't think we'd have any problem with you putting that language in your.
What exactly is involved in the maintenance schedule? I mean, what is needed to clean these units out?
Well, the catch basin grate would be lifted.
Yeah.
And post hole diggers would be used to remove the sediment. And the sediment trap that's in the back of the property is the same thing. What that is a plastic top. It is what I'm proposing is a 30-inch diameter ADS pipe, vertical pipe. So what that has is a plastic top. And normally what I recommend is that's placed right next to the house. It's placed with some wood chips on top, but it's basically 2 grade, and it can be lifted up and also cleaned out by hand with post hole diggers.
I see. Hey, Commissioner, yes.
Question about the water table. Did you establish what the water table is on the lot?
We hit no water at all when we did our, let me just review that before I misspeak. The test hole data, we dug our test holes in August, so it is the dry time of the year. I can't remember if it was high tide, low tide. It was in the morning of August 5th. We went down 62 inches in one hole and we had no water. As I said, the elevation of the property is right about it's between elevation 8.4 and 10.0, and the mean high water is at 5.4. So we are, 4 feet above mean high water.
Any other questions?
How deep is the infiltration tank, and I assume there's a gravel layer below that as well?
The rear system is at elevation 7, and the front system near the driveway is at elevation 7.4. So the elevation at the driveway is 2 feet above mean high water, and the rear system is 1.5 feet, basically 1.5 feet above high water.
Was the inverts you were giving those numbers?
Those were the bottom of the system elevations I'm giving you, the infiltration elevation.
Is there a gravel layer below that? Is that part of the infiltration system?
I don't usually require that because we already have great soil on the property. So I'm looking at the gallery detail that I drew, which is detail G, and I'm not specking out any gravel. That is the elevation at the bottom of the system.
Yeah, you have a question? Jeff, yes.
Yeah, this is a good presentation. It's very helpful. It would be nice if all presentations are this detailed. I have a couple of questions. So to summarize, you're increasing the impervious surface, but it's fair to say that the measures that you're employing will result in an improved stormwater management situation on the property, to sum it all up.
I would specifically say it's more of an improved water quality situation for sure. Right now,
water quality situation as a result of the improved stormwater management. Is that?
yeah, absolutely, because
Yeah.
right now it's all, the entire site is lawn and it drains right into the street or right into
All right.
the sea.
I think that's the key thing. And then you mentioned the 2017 drainage manual by the city. Last month, there was an applicant who referred to the city's new stormwater manual. Was he just referring to this 2017 one, or there's nothing subsequent to that?
To my knowledge, when I speak with the town engineer, which I spoke to the
Yeah.
city engineer this week, we referred to the 2017 stormwater manual.
All right, that's what he must have been referring to. And then just curious, the seawall isn't along the mean high water line. It's set back from the property boundary. Is there a reason for that, or is that just the way the property was developed years ago?
I can't really speak to that, but
You see where the mean high water line is on the drawing that you've got there?
Yep.
And so that's the edge of the property line. I was just curious as to why the seawall is set back a ways. It doesn't affect what we're coming up with here, but it was just curious. Usually the shown on the property is right up to the mean high water
Yeah, the only way I would answer that is that, as you know, these mean high water elevations are established every 10 to 20 years. This one happened to be established in July 2020, so the wall was built prior to that.
Yeah, it's not I was just curious. So John, I would think that the motion here is to make it simple, is to say it's consistent with the harbor management plan because it will result in water quality improvements associated with the property, and provided it meets all city requirements for stormwater management and FEMA requirements for construction in the floodplain, and that appropriate conditions are imposed to ensure appropriate and perpetual maintenance of the stormwater infiltration system and treatment system.
Right. Well, those are again standard language that we have in previous applications of this type. So we'll incorporate that information.
But thank you for such a detailed presentation of the drainage
You're welcome.
components of this.
All right, so we'll move forward. We'll move forward with those that proposal. Jeff?
Just to expand on Chris's information, or
you're off. You're silenced. You're muted.
am I okay now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
You're muted again. Jeff, you're muted again.
There you go. How's that? I'm good.
Good.
All right. It's new technology. Just to expand on Chris's question about water table. So the high tide was on that date was 1:26 p.m. Low tide was call it 7:30. So I'm not sure what time you did your test, but
I know that we did them in the morning. I think it was around 9 o'clock in the morning, if I remember correctly. So when did you say high tide was?
high tide was call it 1:30, 1:28 p.m. that day. Low tide was 7:23 or something like that.
Yeah, so we were there when it was pretty low.
Yeah.
All right, any further comment?
It's just a wonderful thing to be building into bank run gravel. Good stuff.
Okay, should we move forward with the application?
Yeah, so the
Regarding those
motion
comments.
reads, John, you want to read, or Jeff, you want to read the motion as proposed?
Yeah, we,
I would say that the motion is to find it consistent with the harbor management plan, with the understanding that the proposed development will provide an improvement to water quality, and provided that it meets all city requirements for stormwater management and FEMA requirements for coastal construction, and that appropriate conditions are imposed to ensure maintenance of the stormwater management components. And then we could add our other standard language, John, about runoff and best management practices.
Construction,
All
yeah.
right, do I have a second?
Jeff seconds.
Mango seconds it.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed? No?
Motion carried.
All right, we'll move
Thank
forward.
you.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
All right, Liz, thank you very
Thank
much.
Bye now.
Very nice. And Kate, thank you. All right, the third application is a tabled application from last month, and this was on 13 River Road, which is a,
River Drive.
I'm sorry, River Drive. I'm gonna get this right. On River Drive, and the applicant, who is Sam Height, I believe, proposes to remove an existing pier, ramp, and dock, and construct a 4-foot by 36-foot piling supported timber pier, 42 inches by 24-foot ramp, and an 8-foot by 12.5 timber floating dock for a private recreational small boat launching and landing. As I pointed out, the application was tabled pending further information, and I asked Mr. Hiltz who is the agent for the applicant, to come forward and describe exactly a little bit more in detail some of the questions that we had regarding that proposal, and which involved the distancing of the pier out in 17 feet, the distance also into the fairway within that area with regard to and also perhaps issues dealing with the I know some questions came up with regard to the chain that was used. And so Mr. Hiltz, if you could perhaps give us an overview of that particular project.
Hi, good evening. For the record, John Hiltz for the applicant, Sam Hay, 13 River Drive. Yeah, I understand you had a lot of questions, and I understand why everybody who's looked at this so far has had a lot of questions. Currently at the site, there's a pre-1980 pier ramp and floating dock. Never received that permits for it. The facility predates Mr. Hay's ownership of the property. It came to me looking to replace the pier ramp and floating dock, and that set off basically a lengthy discussion, first with the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection regarding potential eligibility for a certificate of permission. Sue Jacobson reviewed what was there, in terms of existing structure and historical aerial, data, and agreed that it could be certificate of permission eligible. However, because it's very close to the adjacent property line, she recommended that the adjacent property owner be contacted and, given an opportunity to review any proposed plans. The existing pier, if you refer to the plans, is very low to the ground. It comes off basically coplanar with the top of a seawall that's at the site. And as such, it doesn't comply with current regulatory guidelines and standards for.
John, I have that diagram here if you want me to put it up on screen. Do I have screen sharing capability, Michelle?
Yes, you do.
Right, let me just see. Right. You have is that the application, John?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, so this is the existing, this is.
Exactly. And that pier is low to the ground, so to speak. The floating dock you can see is basically within an area that would support Spartina if the float wasn't there. And you can see the limits of the Spartina go out on either side of it, somewhat, probably close to 8 feet beyond the waterward face of the floating dock. So the original thought is that we simply replace it pretty much in its current location and elevate it and reduce the size of the floating dock and put it on a, either float skids or pile driven, bench to keep it off the bottom. Plans were presented to the neighbor, Mr. Courbois, and his wife, Frances Hoyt. They objected on the grounds that the elevated pier would impede their view of the waterway. And therefore they wouldn't sign any type of, letter saying that they didn't have any objection to it. So back we went to the DEP and then also the Army Corps of Engineers. At which point, Ms. Jacobson handed it off to Ms. Bailey, Sue Bailey at DEP. And Sue Bailey said, well, can you move the float out beyond the limits of the vegetation? I said, I can, but in order to do so, A, it's now going to be a tidal wetland structures dredging and fill permit. And B, we're also going to encroach into the channel, the waterway more than the 25%, generally allowed for these things. So she asked me to go to Diane Ray at the Army and run it past her. So I did. And Diane looked at the project, looked at the waterway, asked me about the tide. I have pointed out that the area when it's low tide is basically dry. And she responded in an email that she was fine with extending, the current iteration of the proposed dock being centered on the property and extended out beyond the limits of the vegetation.
So now that brings us to the next, or is it here? And I think this is the new proposal here.
Yes, sir. As you can see, the pier is now longer. We utilize open grid decking on the ramp to minimize shading impacts. Float skids for the floats. What I'm trying to do there is basically eliminate permanent encroachment into the waterway beyond the vegetation that would be accompanied by piles, to support the floating dock and anchor it in place.
Does anybody have any questions?
I would think that, does shellfish have any issues because of the beds that are in the area?
Not other, John, than it hasn't been site inspected yet.
Okay.
Right. And I think one of the commissioners had an issue with regard to whether the chain that was attached to that dock, was that going to be dragging along the bottom or any sort?
No, it shouldn't. You can see in the south elevation view that basically it runs from the pier, the waterward terminus of the pier to the landward face of the floating dock. So that's elevated above the substrate.
And what maintenance is required of that chain? It's a galvanized chain?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're basically going to remove the ramp, float, and chain every off season. And obviously you do an inspection at that point of all the components to make sure that they're okay.
Now, although this is not a shellfish, this is a shellfish resource area. It's not a shellfish bed per se. Steve, we haven't looked. Shellfish have not looked at that yet, have they?
So all of Norwalk Harbor is designated as natural bed, John. But I don't have any sampling data where the float stop is, no.
John?
I'm sorry, Jeff?
Yeah, John, when you said this predates 1990, Is that?
Oh,
is that-
1980, Jeff. It's a pre-1980 pier.
Oh, okay. Because I think that's significant for the commission's discussion, because our policy is that if there's unauthorized work since the harbor management plan, then we would recommend, we would not recommend after the fact permits unless there was compelling reasons. But
Right.
since this predates the harbor management plan and it's been in place, then the commission could be okay with this, but also making the statement that it doesn't set a precedent for, after the fact permits for other unpermitted structures.
Yeah, but Jeff, this is also in a totally new location. It's not rebuilding, it's relocating.
It's also in a more preferred location because it's removed. It looked like the drawing of the original, of the existing dock. If you extended the property line, it would hit the dock.
Exactly.
But so it's in a preferred location.
Yep.
Is the seawall authorized, John, or is that something you also?
Seawall's actually, I believe, Jeff, I think the seawall is pre-39. So that grandfathers it under the structure.
Yeah. And what is the neighbor's perspective of attitude toward it now?
Well, I mean, we haven't run it by the neighbor simply because, now that we're taking it out of certificate of permission and putting it into, tidal wetland structure judging and fill, we have to notice everybody within 500 feet when we apply. So if the neighbor has an objection, I mean, basically the neighbor's previous objection was solely view. That was it. They were like, if you elevate it, it will impede our view from our backyard looking down the waterway. That was the total basis of my understanding of the objection. I mean, obviously this is elevated over the existing, elevation of the existing pier, but that's not something that we control. That's in keeping with standard, the current regulatory guidelines for structures of this nature.
Plus, it's in a different optical range though, as well. So should be less of an issue.
Right.
But I might think that, again, we're not saying that it's consistent with the plan or not. We're saying, for the purpose of this discussion, whether the commission feels it has no objection to it moving ahead to a permit application. And I think based on what we've seen, including that it's relocated to a more central location on the property, and that it predates the unauthorized work predates the harbor management plan, that the commission might have no objection to it moving forward to a permit application. But also we haven't received comments yet from the Shellfish Commission.
Right.
And we would anticipate or request that those comments be properly considered by DEEP. But we reserve our right to review it when it goes out to public notice or it's changed.
And how far does this structure stick out into the creek, if you will?
68 feet overall.
Sorry, what was that, John?
68 feet
maximum.
8 feet. So, and is there a limit to what you can build out there with a percentage that is that needs to remain open?
That was the issue that we encountered at the early stage of discussion with DEP and Army, because generally you're given 1/4 of the waterway for one side of the waterway, 1/4 of the waterway for the other side of the waterway, and you get 50% in the middle for a fairway. This doesn't obey that standard, because in order to put the floating dock beyond the vegetation, we need to extend it past that 1/4%.
Do we have a drawing showing the other side of the embayment here?
Yeah, the plan view does show that.
Which one?
Show that, John?
This one here?
I think actually if you go to existing.
The previous one. Let me see here. Let's see if I can get that here. This one here.
No, I think one of the drawings that,
It doesn't include the opposite side, no.
I didn't see that. Not in these plans you just sent me, John.
No, I mean, you know, you can see that you got.
It gives a dimension, but not the view.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, this is the 100 feet to opposite shore.
Right, that's there's a seawall on the opposite bank. Waterward of the seawall is narrower band of Spartina.
And you're still in the mud with this reiteration. too.
that's a good question though.
Right. So how far does this extend in that littoral right that we have as far as distance?
It's 68 feet out from the shore. How far is the existing structure, John, from the shore?
That should be on that plan, on the lower part of that plan there.
Wait, this is the old version,
Yes, sir.
previous version. Let me
Yeah.
go to the, that's here.
30, so it's,
That's the proposed, which
That's
would,
the proposed.
Right.
would be a maximum of 68 feet from the seawall.
Oh, I see. Here's 80 feet to the opposite shore here. I see.
Right, exactly. So we're basically, because we're moving it downstream somewhat where it, you know, that you can see the seawall kind of runs out a bit. That contributes to the overall encroachment and becoming closer to the opposite shore.
Based on the regulation, how much of it is there, of an encroachment is there now? And are you doing this at the direction of an entity? Whether it's Army Corps
I mean,
or
this is basically as a result of direction from Connecticut DEP.
Okay.
it's not a regulation, John, it's a guideline.
No, I understand that. So based on the guideline, were you at the fudge number with 100 feet across? And now how does this?
No, I mean, in even the existing doesn't obey the 25% guideline. Okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, you know, we're basically, you know, we're not, we don't obey it now, and we wouldn't obey it under the current proposed plan.
And I don't know what changes on the tidal mud scenario either. So it's all low in there. So everybody, whether you're on one side or the other, is tide dependent.
Right.
Yes.
I think we might still be covered if we say we have no objection to it moving forward to the application and review, and we reserve the right to continue to comment on it as we have additional information or.
Oh, right.
Yeah, in that way, if there is, we could make note of some of these comments, but I think the way to evaluate them though is in the permit review now.
Right. Yes.
I think a site survey, if you will.
Yeah, well,
is in order here. And John, do you know if with the old structure, John Hiltz, I'm sorry, with the old structure, if does that sit on on dry ground at low tide?
Jeff, the floating dock sits right on the bottom entirely. It has no float skids.
That's shown here, Jeff.
Yeah, you can. It's basically.
All right. Okay.
This is the old structure here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. All right. We'll move forward with those comments.
Yeah. It's a pre-application, so that's the way.
Yeah.
So Jeff, put the standard nomenclature and
we'll do that
as a pre-application, and note that there may be some concerns on the review of the final plan.
Yeah,
Well-
that's a good way to say it, that there may be concerns about the waterward extent of it, but we have no objection to it going forward to review as in the permit application.
Right, let Deep weigh in, let Deep push back, and then we'll, whatever the final result is and the final plan is, then we can weigh in on it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that's the way to do it, but
And Steve, are Shellfish planning a review of that area, site visit plan?
So yeah, and I wouldn't say that the site inspection is the sole purview of the Shellfish Commission.
No, I
It's
know.
fully in partnership with harbor management.
That's
That's
correct.
the way it needs to be.
Right.
This is not where our comments, trump yours. It's
No, I wasn't looking
something
forward.
that we
No,
work
I
on.
wasn't
This is something
saying
we
that,
work
Steve.
on together.
Yes, no, I wasn't saying.
And frankly, with respect to commenting in a pre-application, the history is that the Harbor Management Commission never takes a second bite at the apple, never.
Well, it depends on the plan and how it comes through and what the,
I can't remember in my tenure where a plan after pre-application ever came back before the commission to be discussed, never.
no, they all come back for discussion.
No,
They may get,
It's signed off once in pre-application on the old attachment D and C or E, whatever yours is, and that's it. It's never discussed again.
We've had.
no, they all come back.
We've had applications, Steve, that come back to us and we reviewed.
And not in my tenure, though.
it's not the application I was thinking of, John, that comes back. We could ask for the applicant to submit the actual application to us. But what I was referring to is when it goes out to public notice by DEEP, that's the official statement that the commission makes, whether it's consistent with the plan or not. But Steve's right, we typically don't review it again until now it would go out to a public notice from DEEP.
Yes.
But we could ask the applicant to submit the application to us when it's submitted to DEEP, and reserve our right to review, to comment on that application when we get it, even before the public notice.
Jeff, just on that note, actually, the requirement of the tidal wetlands and structure dredging fill, I do have to send it to your commission, Shellfish Commission, I believe, Conservation, and the mayor's office.
You have to send a notice of it though, John, not.
No, I think I have to, I definitely have to send a notice, but I think I have to provide your commission, Shellfish, and Conservation with a copy. I could be wrong about your commission, but it's generally, copies are provided.
I think we'd want to ask for a copy if it's not required.
Not a problem.
No, all right, no, thank you, John. Okay. Anybody else have any further questions on this application? Pre-application?
Nope.
All right, well, okay, let's move forward then with a motion that we go with the applicant moving forward with the applicant. No objection with the applicant moving forward. We reserve our right for subsequent review of the project when it goes to public bid. And
a hard request to have when the submission is done to DEEP for the final, that we get a copy of it to review once again.
And I think we'd also want to note that we haven't received comments from the Shellfish Commission at this time.
Right.
And there was also, there was some concern about the extent of the proposed structure relative to the full width of the waterway. We reserve our right to continue to provide a comment on that.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Anyone? I don't see any.
Jeff
Dennis?
Mangle seconds.
I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No opposed?
Abstentions?
Abstentions? Okay.
Okay, that moves forward. Next.
Now, we have, let's see, let me get this here.
Gregory Boulevard.
Gregory Boulevard. We have 165 Gregory Boulevard, which again is another pre-application by Carl Cook, who plans to construct a 4-foot by 30-foot piling supported timber pier, 3-foot by 30-foot ramp, 5-foot by 6-foot ramp landing float, and it's 5-foot by 20-foot timber floating dock along the Charles Creek for private recreational boating. And again, this application was tabled from last month, pending again further comment and review by the commission. As I was pointed out, that we did have a number of questions with regard to the vessel. A lot was moored alongside the whether it extended into the fairway, and that there was a certain possibility for encroachment. And also a question came up with regard to the extension of the dock that had been moved inward from the edge of the fairway. John,
Is there anyone representing this application?
Yes, Mr. Hills.
Okay, and were the questions that we had, and part of it was, as you pointed out, John, the beam of the boat. What happens if the boat gets beamier? Because it was right on the line. So I guess you'll speak to that, John Hiltz?
Yes, sir. Again, John Hiltz for the applicant, Carl Cook, 165 Gregory Boulevard. In terms of the boat, basically I showed a 10-foot boat as an illustrative type of scenario. Whether, I don't think he could get a bigger boat in there due to the water depth. You know, I can't really speak to what Mr. Cook is going to do in the future. Basically, these plans were, run by him, and I said, Carl, this is what you can do here. He said, understood, fine, submit it.
So the 10 feet you're talking about is the beam of the boat.
Exactly. So there's that aspect. Dr. Pino forwarded some of your questions to me, and hopefully, I don't know if he distributed my answers. In terms of the moving the float back, obviously we want to try to keep everything in that, as much as we can in that side slope there, so we minimize groundings. Just kind of on a historical note, that's probably like the last little sliver of Charles Creek that hasn't been dredged. Everything north of there obviously has been dredged. You get up to the condos, obviously, and that's basically the walkways.
Where the property, this is an overview of Charles Creek. Whereabouts is we're talking about the dock being.
You want to put that up? You want to put that up, John?
Is it there?
No, we didn't put it up. Put it up.
There you go.
Right.
That's exactly where it is.
Right
there. That's formerly the late Louis Gardella's home.
Right. So now this, let's see, again, how far, well, I don't have any markings here because
right.
It's an aerial view here. But again, the fairway here, is pretty narrow. So the whole idea here would be to be able to move the dock into this area here, and you say that it's not possible to do that.
Right. Well, if you look at the fairway as an entirety, John, if you go upstream, like 1, 2, 3, those are actually, that dock there is in the fairway. That's in the dredge channel.
Is in here? Yeah, that looks it too.
That's the Marvin Beach docks, and those definitely encroach in. The one next downstream from that, from the Marvin Beach, that was it Erica Lee Development, I think was the name of the applicant.
That's this one here?
Yeah, that one there. And then the one below that, Ron Kellogg's, that encroaches into the channel.
So the proposal here is to bring the dock up in this area right in here.
It's basically, yeah, if you go to the south part of the property, exactly, that round there. And what you'll see there is that the water depths the flat kind of slopes down towards the dredge basin of the Dorland Marina there to the south. It slumps in. So you're kind of taking advantage of the fact that, by virtue of Dorling having dredged, their basin, that's kind of, the area that is less, less accreted, if you will.
John, do you have the plan? John Pinto,
Yeah,
that you
let me-
could share?
Yeah, let me see here, Jeff. Let's see.
The plan that we had last month.
Yeah, I'll get that in a minute. Let's see, I believe this was the. Oh, yeah, this is right here that I proposed. Yeah, and the question was the beam of the boat right along the stairwell here. And whether it couldn't be moved in this area right in here. And there's also a question as far as the distance from here to the outer shore. Actually,
Can
We
you
can't
share
see the
that?
plan,
Yeah,
John.
you haven't.
what?
Can you share that on the screen, John?
I thought oh, okay. Okay, there it is. I'm sorry. Here's the plan, right? Share, hold on. There we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, the question was the juxtaposition next to the farewell here,
Mhm.
beam of that boat, and the distance to the opposite shore, the slope distances that were brought up, and whether the dock could not be moved in this particular area here.
Well, obviously,
Yeah, so I can see, as you see, look at an aerial view. Yeah, I can see that with regard to the mud flat area.
right. There's that aspect of it. And again, this is historical. I don't know, how much this applies right now. When I prepared the last dredging application for Charles Creek and also for Dorland Terrace, when I was doing that, Mike Ludwig, who's, I guess, I don't know if he's still working, but he was at National Marine Fisheries at that point.
Yeah, oh, that's a while back.
Yeah. And so in any event, that was, we were discussing winter flounder. And basically he said that, that this was historically an area where the winter flounder were, but obviously because of the dredging, they hadn't been. And I pointed out that it's south of Dorland, that was kind of the first time that they said you can't dredge. Basically Dorland's, if you look at Dorland's footprint, which is, just to the south of this, it's very kind of choppy. And what they were trying to do is preserve the intertidal flat as much as they could over there. So that's kind of one of the intentions here, is just not to, muck around with the what's left of that flat, but also again, the applicant obviously wants to, get as much water as possible into their boat. I don't think that there's any problem with your commission commenting and saying that, no vessel should encroach into the channelway. I think that's understood. And if you want to include that in any comments, that's perfectly acceptable and understandable. So there's that.
Does the fairway that's referenced in the DEP license for that, does that include the side slope, or does it include?
No, it's just the fairway itself is a 75-foot wide fairway. And, the side slopes are basically, created, you're going from 8 feet to potentially no feet. So, you can see on the note there, the limit of 1V, 2H dredge side slope.
What? It calls for a 1 to 2 side slope,
Yeah.
which is steep. But the policy of the plan was nothing within the
fairway.
The fairway as identified in whatever that COP number is.
Right. Exactly. So if you look across the way, for example, at the, where you directly have a piling anchored floating dock, any vessel berth at that dock is obviously in the side
Yeah.
slope.
Now, if that area is to be dredged, would you have to remove your dock structure to accommodate the dredging and the proper side slope?
Well,
'Cause
you
that,
know, this is what they did last time, Jeff. I mean, when they dredged it last time, some of the owners elected to remove the floats and pilings, some didn't. And, you know, it's one of those situations where you get people, dredging contractors sometimes will condition their proposal saying, we want to dredge within X number of feet of a piling or a slope. And that's to protect themselves. They'll say, they'll do that because they don't want to be accused of breaking a piling or having to deal with replacing a broken piling. So if, depending upon the dredging contract and the negotiations between the applicant and the dredging contractor, usually it makes it easiest for everybody if you pull the floats and the pilings out.
but who
Makes it better.
holds that certificate of permission for the dredging? Who was that issued to?
That was issued to the Charles Creek Association. Basically, Dick Fontana, one of the homeowners, organized, believe it or not, he organized all the homeowners along the creek. And they, as an association, arrived at a formula by which, they basically were all charged according to their waterfront footage on the creek. So, if you had 100 feet, you were charged on, on a total, based on a total linear footage of bordering the creek, you paid a percentage based on your footage. So, I mean, it's the Charles Creek Association that basically holds that. I think any homeowner in there could theoretically apply for maintenance dredging as a result. They could do an individual thing. It would be, in my opinion, kind of silly to do so. So whatever, if you didn't do it as a group, you'd obviously just have everything fill into your place quickly.
So is there a formal organization that would have a say in commenting on structures that would be close to the fairway or that might affect the?
No, it wasn't really that type of an arrangement. It was really more of a payment arrangement. I mean, obviously the matters of structural encroachment are basically left to DEP and Army Corps.
Well, we have something in the harbor management plan regarding Charles Creek,
Of course, yeah,
as far as the fairway distance.
right.
Well, any further comment on the application?
Did the Shellfish Commission comment on this?
We did not. This was the second of two that the commission had questions on, and that we were waiting for the answers to those questions such that a site inspection is scheduled in partnership with Harbor.
All right, well, why don't we can set that up, Steve, as far as, because I was actually requested to have a site visit by one of the other commissioners that just sort of set a date and just do a couple of the properties, review those properties as we move
Yeah,
forward.
let's find a good low tide as soon as possible, John.
All right. So this weekend would be fine. As far as we can set that up. All right.
But what would be the commission's finding on this now as a pre-application?
Well, for them to move forward with the application,
Well, that's my question. The commission was similar motion to the previous one about moving forward and continuing to review it and asking for a copy of the application and expressing, in this instance, that there was a concern talked about the proposed placement of structures within the side slope of
the fairway. Yeah.
So we'd be expressing those concerns or comments and then expect that those would be addressed in the DEP's review of this, and that we could weigh in at the same time.
Right, and based on the location of the boat, and the representation of the application, that we can, reinforce the fact that the beam is limited to 10 feet.
Yeah, no structure or any vessel tied to that structure should encroach into the,
Into the fairway, the channel.
into
Right.
the designated fairway.
Now, John, didn't you say that was not the actual beam of the vessel that the owner plans to have?
He doesn't have anything at this point, John. What I was basically doing is trying to show that, what a 10-foot boat there would look.
Yeah, that's a great comment too. That's right.
I mean, 10 foot is on the line. His beam could be 9 feet.
Exactly.
And the boat, instead of 30 feet, it could be 28 feet.
Right. I mean, it's helpful to have these comments because, once he receives, these comments will be included in the application. And if, he's sitting there thinking like, well, I want to get something big and I want to, it's going to have a 13-foot or a 15-foot beam, I'm going to say, well, then you need to, we need to revise the layout in order to accommodate that, because you have findings here that say that nothing goes in the fairway. So, that's a heads up to the applicant that says you can do what you can do given the current, layout, but if you're considering something else, you need to consider a different layout.
And that fairway could be pretty active. With all the Gardella's boats on the other side, all the Charles Creek boats that are marinaed there. And then there's a lot of traffic and activity during the boat show as well, with stuff getting stored down in the various areas.
Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff, people go in, people go out.
Yep.
Recognizing, but what we're not doing now is trying to establish a setback distance. We haven't talked about that.
That was that was not discussed. Yeah, setback distance, like we've done in the East Basin and the.
With respect to the federal channels and East Norfolk Basin anchorage.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether there's any setback that's been maintained.
Well, that's a good question.
To this point in this area. I mean, it's
Not
something
really,
that,
Jeff. It's, historically, I mean, as when we were looking at that aerial, you could see that. And if you go back and look at the plans associated with the dredging COP, I mean, a lot of the members, of the quote unquote association that dredged it, basically a lot of their docks approach into the channel itself. Yeah.
well, I think that's a comment we could make in the letter. There's something that we're going to give additional consideration to in the review process.
Well, I know, like as you look at the head of Charles Creek up in this area right in here, there's a little. I guess that's the end. Is that correct? That's the end of Charles Creek right here.
Where the condos are, John?
Right where, John?
Right up in this area right here. This is the end here.
You got to put a different picture up.
Oh, I thought I had. Oh, here it is. Wait a minute. This one, right?
Yeah.
This is the aerial view here. Yeah, this is the end of Charles Creek here. Yeah.
Well, the whole thing is Charles Creek, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah. This is toward the end here. You have dockage here.
Right.
And then obviously this representing the overall extended fairway here out onto the harbor. Yeah. So this is the only vacant area right in here. But they do have vessels here on this side over here, and this side over here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got Johnny's house, Connie's house, Louie's house, and Billy's house. They're all right along there.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, again, is the association aware of the fact that, again, if you have complete mooring of vessels all along the side here, what is the distance in this fairway?
John Hiltz, is it necessary to with this application to inform the contiguous owners or the people of the Village Creek Association?
Well, no, I mean, given that
Charles
given
Creek
that
Charles
it's
Creek.
not a wetland,
Charles Creek.
everybody within 500 feet of this is going to get notified.
All right. All right, well, it's 7:20 right now. Move forward with the application. If anyone has any further questions, we can go along with our recommendations. We'll put all that in a letter and get that out pending again.
Pending shellfish.
And yeah, a little site visit that we'll do, and again have a standardized comment that we have talked about.
And a hard comment about encroachment.
But the motion would be to have no objection to it going forward to the permit application with the other comments that we've talked about.
That's correct. Do we have a vote on that? All those in favor?
Do you need a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Need a second.
Make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay.
All in favor?
All those, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed? Objections?
Extensions? We have everyone?
Except move, so moved.
Okay. All right, well, that ends our application review.
Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, thank you, John.
Have a good night.
Thanks, John. Always good to see you.
Take care, everybody. Be well, stay safe.
Should we be touching base on the forthcoming application for Water Street? You want to have any conversation on that?
Which one on
The Nardo property?
The Nardo property? Yeah,
no, not right now.
okay.
I didn't have that on the agenda, and I think we'd wait for further information.
Okay.
I have one question. I thought that property was leased to the DOT for the walk bridge.
It is, but that's everything that's going on there keeps morphing, Chris. Wouldn't you agree?
It is morphing, yes. I mean, it's, the site, I went back and looked at the DOT's two docking proposals, and the one we have, endorsed is the one adjacent to it that actually overhangs that piece of property.
Right.
I'm just curious. I mean, somebody still owns it.
Originally, the DOT was putting in the bulkhead. Now they're saying that they're not. It's not part of their project any longer.
No, the bulkhead was going to be after the fact, John. The bulkhead was going to be at the end of the project, not
Right.
Yeah.
This application said they were doing that work this year,
In June, right.
which is optimistic given the permitting process, but still, their intent is to do it right away.
I didn't put this on the application review this week until, again, we got further comment and review. We had a chance to look at it. It's over 100-page. It's a 100-page application, as you saw, and I'll send that out in a formal manner. Let's say, well, we can do it within very shortly, since everyone has gotten a copy of that, along with the previous notice of violation that they had, which was apparently been remediated.
We don't know any of that, John.
I know that.
John, we don't know any of that. And
All we got-
DEP is providing additional information to us for the review at our request.
They actually said that in June of 2020, that they rescinded the violation.
It requires further discussion, John, when it's on the agenda.
Okay.
We've asked for clarification from DEEP so that we have information when we review it.
Yeah, we haven't heard from Kevin Zavoy. We wanted to talk to Kevin Zavoy about that, John.
Okay, fine, that's fine.
Right.
All right, while we were waiting for you, John, I already gave my chairman's report, so we'll go right to Harbor Master Scully's report. Greg, are you there?
I'm here. Yep.
Okay, buddy. You're on.
Yeah. Nothing new to report. We're still going through and trying to help a few of these guys maneuver through. I'm getting a lot of questions. People in the future buying boats and they want to try and, reserve a mooring before they get a boat. And I told them you can't. The guy I spoke to today, who said he put an application in down in Rowayton area, but through us. And I spent probably a half hour back and forth with him trying to find it. And there's no record of his name or whatnot, so he's going to try and redo it. But little by little, they're coming in. That's
Well,
about
Chris
it.
McDonald may have a solution to all of that. I read his well done
I
work.
saw, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really good report there. Yep. Definitely.
Hopefully,
I think that'll definitely help. Definitely. And then hopefully, with Jeff's proposal on the fees and stuff like that, hopefully that'll kick in next year too.
Yep. Yeah, we're making great progress as a commission.
Yeah, so Mr. Harbor Master, so
Yes,
you're
sir.
saying that they can't apply for a mooring unless they have a boat, but what about having a minimum?
Right.
But what about having a charging a minimum of say 28 feet or 30 feet or 25 feet or something like that, and then letting them have a mooring?
Well, the only problem with that is the application won't go through with an uploaded insurance or registration for it. And then I'm sure at some point, if someone says, well, you charged me for a 28 foot, but it's a 20 foot, and we don't want to try and get into that. But the main thing is, if you don't have all three factors during the application won't go through. You know what I mean? So I get it. And I tell them, it's not going to be a problem. It's not like we're going to run out of mooring or running out of spaces. And that's where their main concern is. They want to get in before, there's not a spot for them. And I said, we can pretty much definitely accompany whatever location you want and fit you in there.
Hopefully in the future, there will be a problem getting in queue to get a mooring.
Yeah, once we get stocked up pretty well, that'd be a good problem for us. But right now, we can fit in last minute stuff and everything else. But and that's their main concern. They're worried about reserving a spot. It's funny, when I was going through a whole bunch of the regulations with one person, and then I didn't realize that I guess we've overlooked it, but there's actually a late fee if you're not done by, I forget what the date was. It's a $165 late fee if your application's not in on time.
That's a reinstatement fee, Greg. That's a reinstatement.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it goes beyond 2 or 3 months and they want to reinstate the application, it's that much.
Okay.
Well,
that somewhere.
That is a good sign of the health of the boating industry.
Oh yes,
this pandemic has brought people back into boating, brought people that have never been into boating. It's
well, you know what it is too, John? It's a lot of people that have left the New York area.
Yeah,
have moved here now, and that's what I'm finding. They're from New York. I don't have one yet, so that's what we're seeing. You're right, though. The pandemic has opened it up a lot more. Now they live in this area, and they're like, wow, this is great. We're near the water. Let's get a boat.
Yep, and actually, those inquiries like that, looking for the space so they don't get blocked out, is a healthy thing for us. So moving forward, let's capitalize on it. Hopefully, the plans that we have started and been working on, and all the hard work that Jeff's committee did, and Chris has really dug in very well into the locations that are out there. And if we can get the city to buy into both programs, we're going to be much the better for it. And it gives us a higher visibility, and it creates more value in something that's extremely valuable to begin with.
My experience on the other side of the sound is that there are huge wait lists now for places that never had them before on the New York side.
Yes.
30,
Absolutely.
40, and 50 people waiting for a mooring.
Yes, you're right.
Super. All right, Greg, anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, Jeff, do you have any words of wisdom to impart on us?
Jeff
Me.
Mangles or Jeff Stedman?
Yes.
I'll keep my comments to nothing right now.
All right, well, let's go to committee reports. Mooring and harbor safety, Dennis.
Okay, as we all know, the renewal applications are ongoing. Committee continues to monitor and address the issues, each issue as the concerns and issues come up. We have 36 approved applications and 26 renewals under review. We received from the managed fields the first payment from Rowayton Yacht Club. I sent an email out to Norwalk Yacht Club and Sprite Island Yacht Club, kind of reminding them of the first payment date. And I was assured that the payments would be in by March 31st. I met with Tom Rutherford, one of our tackle inspectors, and just to review issues he might have with respect to the season that went on last year and moving on to the new season this year.
You're doing a good job, Dennis. You're a hammer now. You're getting respect out there. They're sending their checks in.
I need the pack then, is that what you're saying?
No. I said you're the hammer now. You're our hammer.
I know what you meant.
Getting that money in. Good job, Dennis.
Harbor safety, I'm not aware of any issues or concerns regarding harbor safety unless the harbor master knows of anything. Or Mike Silva, if you know anything.
Regarding harbor safety
everything on the walk bridge is going along as scheduled and no issues. So
safety so far is good, I think, right, Mike?
yeah, everything with the walk bridge is, going as scheduled. It's going to be a busy season. I've driven through all the boat yards and they're already launching. I mean, it's not just they're pulling the shrink wrap off. I mean, shrink wrap is coming off at a very accelerated rate, and they're actually putting boats in the water early, I think. So last year was our busiest year that I ever had, and even Pete said the same thing. And, Pete obviously goes back much farther than I do. So we're anticipating a very busy boating season this year as well.
That's because you're on a short timeout here, led to service, and they want to really make you earn your money over the next, how many days now, Mike?
526, but I'm not counting.
All right.
That's a long time.
That can happen.
526.
hit the lottery.
That's only a year and a half, guys. So,
yeah.
All right, Alan.
It's actually 1 year, 5 months, and 29 days.
And 45 minutes. Alan has a financial report and also a motion to put forward.
At the end of February, we had $10,000 on hand. Our only expense in February was the harbor master's stipend, so that's was paid out. So that's it. Up to the end of February, we were about 10 grand on hand. The other item I have is I have an invoice from Jeff Stedman, our consultant, and I need a vote on approving the expenditure so that we can get the check out from City Hall. They want to attach the minutes of our meeting to the check request, so it seems like a fair deal. Jeff's invoice is $8,200 approximately. It's for July 1st through December 30th. So it's 137 hours at $60 an hour. That comes out to about 23 hours a month, which I think Jeff must be undercharging us at that for all the work that he does for us. So I'd make a motion that we approve, authorize issuing a payment of $8,220 to Jeffrey Stedman for his
Second that
services.
motion.
Dennis seconds the motion. All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Objections?
Aye.
End of financial
No
report.
abstentions? So moved.
End of my report. Thank you.
Okay, Alan, do you want to give a slight report, or we'll do it together on the outcome of the preliminary budget meeting?
I don't have anything to report until to see what the city settled on.
All right, the city has, as I get it, they had their budget meeting, but from what I was told or read afterwards, that it was like a unofficial, not official, wasn't officiated meeting, so it may have to be redone. But the and Jessica, Jess did our presentation for us, and going into the meeting, because Alan was away, I spent quite a bit of time with her on the phone, and she was very well prepped going in. She knows what our needs are, and not in an objectionable way, but the city is pushing back on everybody's budget. So preliminarily, our budget, instead of, our ask was $7,000-8,000, I believe, more. They want to give us $10,000 less.
Right.
So that's a $17,000 difference, which puts us in a tremendous shortfall. But conventional wisdom and what I've been led to believe is that we can always go back to the council for a bite at the apple. They have funds, contingency funds that we can hit into. There is no fat in our budget. They want to take out the part because there was a number attached to it to put in, Greg, the transient moorings that we were talking about doing this year, which is a revenue generator, but they're pushing back on it. And a lot remains to be seen. But we have no fat other than that $90-something I spent on pizza for a meeting that we had. That's the only monies that we've spent out of the ordinary and not normal from what we're doing. And a lot of it travel wise, this, that, and the other things is at our own expense. So they have nothing to gripe about. And the benefit that the city reaps from what this commission does is tremendous. Overall, we are the watch guard along with Shellfish. There's a lot of things that could have happened to our waterways that are objectionable that we've stopped in its tracks, and we have safety utmost in mind. So we're doing our due diligence and our job all the way around. They also wanted to push back on the other consultant that we had, saying, well, why do we need them? And then, well, my obvious answer is that because we haven't been given any help from any other city agency, and we're left to our own devices, and we had to go out to get things answered as far as questions that we had, or modus operandi, or ways to do.
John, who are you referring to?
Related.
Who are you referring to outside besides
Tom Hart?
Tom Hart.
Right. So that's basically my input on where we are in the budget process. Anybody have any questions?
No, John, just to say though, that the harbor's contribution has a 50% discount because of what we kick in for Professor Hart, and every penny is worth it.
Yep. All right, moving right along, plans and recommendations.
All right, so the plans and recommendations, I've been working with the subcommittee, if you will, to come up with a plan for proposed fees, and I have to also thank Jeff for his comments, Alan and Dennis and the three managed fields, and Steve and anybody else who has put in their comments about fees. So after your comments, I looked through the fees again, did a comparison, and Dennis sent me some information about the managed fields from 2019 and 2020, as far as what they paid and how many vessels were in the water in 2020. I shared that information with the subcommittee and a select few of the other, certainly John Romano and Jeff Stedman. Just to give you an idea of what's going on, there's approximate numbers of vessels on moorings is almost 400 slips, and that's commercial and private marinas. There's about 1,600, but the total vessel in the water is nearly 2,000. That's 100% capacity. Additional revenue can be found with commercial docks and barges, commercial docks being upriver, and barges and tug traffic, as well as shellfish vessels, and Harbor Management Commission application fees, review fees. So if we were to combine all of those, well, just the moorings and the slips themselves, and have a maintenance and improvement fee for the harbor. And we're only talking the slips and the moorings at this point. It would be somewhere around $86,000, $85,705. That's $17,000 in moorings and $68,705 in slip fees at $35 each. So I do have a breakdown of fees, if you will, for harbor management application review fees. And this is all based on fees that the cities charge as well. For residential units, 1 to 6 is $160, 7 or greater is $260, and commercial is $400, and a COP is $75.
Jeff, has everybody gotten those on the commission?
Well, this is just a summary, so I didn't send it to everyone, so I'll follow up with this and send it out to everyone. My final draft.
Right.
The applications. I mean, I could share my screen if you want, but it's.
No, I wouldn't get that in depth for it because we're going to need to vote on this, I think, next month, and everybody needs to have the hard copy and a chance to remark on it or digest it, I think.
Sure.
We may have a special meeting to deal with this, to expedite it, to move it forward, which I would suggest to do so we don't lose any ground with it.
Overall. I can send it to all the commissioners.
Yes, please.
John, can I chime in? I just had one point of interest here because of that court edict with regard to the authority among commissions and reviewing of applications. All of a sudden you're going to charge a fee, have a fee for charging for an application. We might be caught in a quagmire if we don't get some sort of results with regard to this new court.
Well, John, that's something, whatever we're proposing is not going to happen overnight. There's going to be public hearings. It's got to go to ordinance committees. It's got to go to a lot of places first. And I would think that the issues that you're talking about, the ruling that happened in Greenwich, that fight needs to be ongoing, and we're going to need to have legislation that clarifies what the legislative intent was to begin with.
Yeah, I mean,
so these things will happen simultaneously. We can't stop one opposed to the other being in motion. Jeff?
I think we're all right with that though, John, because the DEP's own process now that the DEP is requiring applicants to follow involves the pre-application review and the submittal to the commission of the COP applications.
I know that's attachment E of every application that the DEP puts out for us, any pre-application. But I just don't know I didn't want to get caught between a rock and a hard place.
Well, I don't think we want to assume that that's going to change, John. You know, even because DEP is requiring that now. They would have to change their whole permit process and say that, you know, that you don't have any role at all.
Yeah.
I don't think we should worry about that with this proposal now. It's my opinion.
All right, so Jeff, just get it out to everyone and let us digest it. I know our friend Wes wanted to be on his call tonight. I don't know if you saw his email to you and me.
Oh, I didn't see him. Okay.
Yeah, would you kindly follow up with him?
Absolutely.
He had some issues to get on it. You have his email. So just answer that email and tell him that I asked you to. I'm on the commission's behalf in my stead.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. You know, the input from the managed fields was greatly appreciated as well. You know, and the managed fields, you know, and you'll see everyone that the proposal is a flat fee proposal, but managed fields get 25% discount off of that fee. So because it's a self-managed thing.
That's all good. All right, anything else, Jeff?
No.
I just leave it there until everybody reads it, and we have a little special meeting for it. Alan, newsletter and website?
Nothing to report right now.
Okay. Joe, for water quality, sent out an email to everyone to just bring them abreast of what's going on within the Mayor's Water Quality Committee. So I suggest that you read that and take that as virtue of his report. And the length of time it'll take you to read it is probably at least 10% of the time Joe would have talked to explain it. So that's a good thing. Let's move to the minutes. John Crespo, you want to address I'll let you handle you're the minute man. John Crespo, you're on mute. You're the minute
I'm here.
man. Okay, you're the minute man.
I'm the minute man. Yeah, I sent them out and I didn't get any responses, so it was posted. So
Okay,
there's no
so
issues.
any issues anybody want to add, delete, correct? Could I have a motion to accept the minutes as
Make that motion.
Submitted, yeah.
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions, objections, so moved. All right, great meeting, guys. We really actually did a lot of stuff tonight, and we're kind of finishing in record time. So the hyperbole has been cut.
Let's continue that.
All right, so I need to go to public comment at this point.
All right. Well, John, if we don't want to bring up my report here, I would appreciate any.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. I apologize. I actually, we did see it, but why don't you give us a little bit of overview where you are at this point, and what you feel next direction is. I apologize.
Yeah. I'll skip the text, but I'm just going to share my screen so I can talk to the slides I did.
Okay. And they were all great. Everything you did was really
good. So, I started with this image from the harbor management plan because this kind of, and I concentrated on the South Anchorage because the North Anchorage is up by the dinghy dock at Veterans Park. So there is fairly good, if you have a mooring up in the east, in the North Basin or the East Norwalk Basin, then this issue of access to your mooring isn't quite so much an issue. This is the image from the plan. It actually allows for, I think it was either 48 or 50 something, 54, I think, moorings either swinging or in line. This is actually upside down. I'll go to the next slide. How do I do that here? So this is the anchorage overlaid on an aerial with the channel to the East Norwalk Basin in the middle here. There's the marker that's the channel marker that's on the it kind of is a good landmark there. So you can see how far down the anchorage actually extends. I don't know how much of this is usable because of shoaling and sedimentation. This is a Google image where there was a fairly low tide, so you can see the federal channel here. You can see the mud flats all around it. But there's authorized moorings almost all the way down to this was this Shoreham Club. I forget what the name of this club is down here. Shoreham Club. So there's quite a few. I think I only listed 12. I went back and looked. There's probably more like 15 or 16 street ends that where the city right of way goes all the way down to the water's edge. I looked deeper into these four because they're the ones with the most proximity to the mooring field. Those being Cove Ave, Decker Street, Kenora Street, and Loud Street. And then I went through. So here's Cove Ave, which is where the paved section goes quite close to the water's edge. And in a couple of these, you can see that people are using, there's a path worn through the seagrass where I think people are already using it for launching kayaks. Here's Decker, which has.
I'm sorry, Chris, can you go back to that previous presentation?
Cove or the aerial?
Yeah, no, the Cove Avenue and the Cove Avenue. Wasn't there a road that went right through here in the area right?
So here, yeah, there was a right of way through here which has been
usurped,
or I don't know. It seems to be universal, so I don't know what how that went about.
The property now from the water, from the bulkhead all the way down to that down to that, what used to be a road or a path there. Is
Right.
that city property right in there?
I don't know if this part through here is city property. There's also like, it's also like that piece of property we just reviewed on River Ave, where
Yeah.
there's the right of way, but then there's a sliver of property, I think, on the other side of the right of way that's owned by the contiguous property owner. So,
See.
but Cove Ave itself extends all the way down to the
Right.
water line.
Okay.
And that's, you know, and that's a pretty good location to accessing the mooring field. I gave some distances in the report. You can look at that, but all of these are obviously much closer than dropping a kayak or a dinghy in at the dinghy bay on either side
Right.
of the park. Decker was the next one I looked at, because that is also quite proximate to the lower end here, which is where we really need to increase the access. That has, somebody sort of incorporated this into their yard, but it isn't fenced off or anything. And somebody's just maintaining it as grass. But again, Decker Street comes all the way down, and there's some kind of, again, you can see a path that's been worn through the seagrass. So, you know, my assumption is that folks are using this to access the water already and a more informal basis. And then I don't have I didn't do aerials of these two. I used this image because it was called Hout Street or something at some point, but this area is line stripe for the South Norwalk Boat Club, and they own this triangle piece, this parcel B, it's labeled, that's owned by the boat club, as well as some of the area over here. But the city right of way does extend all the way to, there's a fence and a bulkhead there, but it's been line striped for the boat club. Now that's just squatting as near as I can tell. And that was and all this information I also got from Aaron Ho at DPW. He sent me some of this information. He sent me these property maps and some other images, which I just sort of included some of them. So this one's interesting because there's deeper water here, because the boat club has their docks proximate here. And there is a fence and there is some ground. It's not total high water there.
Is that right along the wall of Shorefront Park? That's right.
Shorefront Park starts here.
Right.
We reviewed this new piece of property.
Yeah.
See if I can switch screens. I can go to the area. Here, I'm going to jump down a few because I want to do an aerial of this area. So we're talking about here. So this is the parking area. We reviewed an application for a couple of these properties recently.
Right.
You can't get it, and I can't zoom in quite good enough, but there's a seawall for this property. There's a bulkhead seawall with a fence on top. There would have to be there might have to be steps put in or something to make it a safe access. But it is because I think there's probably water there at all tides, as well as the proximity to the mooring field. I think it would probably be more work to develop that one, but I think there's obvious benefits to it. Back to normal screen. That's that one. And then the other one I looked at is Loud Street, which is back up, which is over here in that's actually not Shorefront Park anymore. I think they call this area Harbor Shores or something. There's another homeowners association there. I mean, the negative to this is there's quite a big mud flat between it and open water, but it is reasonably proximate to the southern mooring field there. Plus, it's on the South Norwalk side as opposed to the East Norwalk side. It'd be good to have access points on both neighborhoods. That is, again, it's the city right of way goes right down to the water. There's a small concrete wall there. It's a bit broken ground. It's old. It's probably 50, 60-year-old concrete. I don't know the genesis of it. And there's a stormwater outfall there, but there's a bit of gravel area before you get to the seagrass. So it's certainly an area that could be used. from not at the dead low tide, but intermediate tides. So once we've identified these, 4 areas, maybe not all of them are developable. We can decide that what we want to pursue. But what does that mean? What can we do to allow for dinghy use? I think at a minimum there has to be, physical access, that it's safe to walk down to the water's edge. Some of these might need a little bit of concrete work or something to that effect. The other thing is, like, what would people need to, or would we allow storage of dinghies? And I think that is part of the issue here, is that people who have a mooring don't want to have to car top their dinghy every time or a kayak every time they want to go access their dinghy. So there has to be something to tie it up to. I mean, in my mind, I was just thinking of, some iron pipe, 2-inch, 3-inch, whatever, set it, with a few elbows set in concrete with a 2 or 3 posts into small sonotubes, so that it wouldn't be easily washed away or pulled up. And that you could either tie it to it, or if you wanted to, use some type of wire fix, chain or wire fixation to actually lock your dinghy up, you could do that. Whether we would want to permit that as part of the mooring with an additional fee for a sticker, that's process, and we could work through that as we want to implement it. And if we wanted to go to this extent, what has to happen next? We're not going to have the budget to do this work. I don't think we would. I don't know if we want to, us as an entity, as the Harbor Commission, would want to contract this work out. Would it be done through DPW, through Rex and Park? Those are the 2 logical ones, because the right of way, I guess, is maintained by the DPW, but more of a Rex and Park function. I don't know. Somebody would have to budget it to install it. There'd have to be, maintenance budgets in perpetuity for maintaining it. That's sort of my question, because I'm not that experienced with the city budgeting and the processes and everything else. So that's kind of what I'm throwing back to the committee and folks who know more about that. Some of the other, we did a preliminary search on what's there. He certainly suggested we would have to go to the land records office to do a thorough title search on this, to make sure there aren't any other easements or encumbrances on these properties. There's another dozen or so which we could certainly do something if it's just cleaning it up and having it signed, not putting in racks or making it official storage or anything like that, just having it signed, that so people could car top their small craft or paddle boards or kayaks or whatever they would want to use to do it. There's a lot in East Norwalk. There's a few more in South Norwalk going down. It gets into that marsh between Harbor Shores, Village Creek, and Harbor View. Harbor View is all private. Village Creek is all cul-de-sacs. There's no street ends. Wilson Point, again, is all private. There's one halfway decent one in Belle Isle and Yarmouth. And then there's, I guess, one on Farm Creek at Samus Street. All these could be signed as public property. Somebody mentioned that Branford has a system of doing that. That could be part of that. It's just going up and, having DPW do a minimal cleanup on it, whatever, and signing it, and then maybe getting it published on a map on the city website as, or our websites or whatever we have that could promote the use of these properties. And then there's difficult ones. I don't think I included it. Well, I think we can see it in one of these. I'm going to point out Darien Street, where the fella has planted a hedge completely across this. So as you zoom in here, this street right of way continues. They're usually about 25 feet wide, right down to the water's edge. Some of the other ones, somebody's maintaining the grass just because they don't want a jungle next to their house. But this guy's actually planted a hedge completely across the city right of way, and is quite nicely groomed the city right of way into his lawn without
Flagpole and all.
without any interruption or picket fence or anything. So, that may be an issue of, the corporation council going in and asserting the city's right of way. No doubt taking down the head there. I mean, there's,
That's Tony Itoro's house.
yeah.
Formerly of the Harbor Commission.
What's that?
That's Tony Itoro. He was on the Harbor Commission.
Well, then you should know better. That's all I can say. I don't. I'm no expert in squatters' rights law, but at some point it does become his property if the city doesn't reassert their ownership. And I think with some of these, they need to. Ownership. There's another small one over here.
Those back taxes though are a killer.
Well, that's again, I know nothing about that. I didn't get the whole thing. There's actually Neptune Ave. There's a right of way that goes down, and there was a bridge over to Harborview at one point, which I've seen it on 60-year-old, 80-year-old aerial maps, but it's not there anymore. And those folks have sort of incorporated that into their yard. It's a fairly narrow right of way, but that's another one that if the city, it's probably at this point it's use it or lose it. I don't know how long these people can how that all works, but that may be an issue for corporation council and everybody and those kind of folks to assert right of way ownership. But the right of way is there on the books for all these properties.
Those properties that's all public trust, and I think it's important that it be preserved for the public. All those street ends and all those waterfront access points.
Yeah, and the harbor management plan is pretty explicit about the use of it and the use of it both for general use and and us as the guardians of this and the promoters of the harbor management plan. It's kind of incumbent on us to get this implemented. So so all feedback is welcome. I suggested 4 locations that could be developed directly from mooring access. I mean, Yarmouth Place could actually be developed for Wilson Cove access. I don't know how much I know there's managed fields in there. I don't know how much of Wilson Cove is I'd call them independent moorings. I don't know how, individually leased moorings, but or if there's more room for that. But Yarmouth is. I don't know if I can shoot. Can you guys see that? Can you guys see the Google Earth here? Or did you lose?
No, we're just seeing Neptune Avenue.
You just see
Neptune and Seabreeze Place.
Stop sharing and share the Google view.
Chris, did you get all this from the city records? You went to the
Yeah, I gave them a list, and he gave me some feedback on some of them. And I had a long list. So I sort of focused him on the ones that I thought we would be improving. So here's Yarmouth, for example. This right of way goes right down.
Yeah.
This is actually, I actually rented this house for my wedding, so I got married right here. Personal note there, but this is a winter shot, but the mooring field comes fairly far out into this area. So if there are, Dennis, do you know, is everything here privately managed by the 2 yacht clubs, or are there any individually held?
Not that I know of, Chris.
I don't see why there couldn't, but anyways. So yeah, and then Samus Street's another that this wouldn't be for moorings, but there's a lot. There could be kayak launching there. And again, back in the harbor, all the way up 1st Street, 2nd Street, 3rd Street, 5th Street are all end of the street, and there's several more along here. The ones here, Marion Ave and Wallace Ave, the Marvin Beach Association has put benches in, and it's sort of is probably being used for this kind of thing already because the neighborhood association has done a nice job with that.
Hey, Peter Johnson, has your son set up a hot dog stand out on your little contiguous property over there on Cove? Where's Petey? Gone?
Chris, I have a question. It's Lori Jones.
Sure.
So is there room for parking in these areas?
Well, as far as I know, there is no, I mean, I don't think we anticipate more than 2, maybe 3 on any given day.
Okay.
So there's on-street parking in all these neighborhoods, you know.
Okay, great.
I mean, I don't think we're going to get 10 cars overnighting for a week. You know, maybe somebody might leave their car if they take their boat off to Long Island for the weekend. But I mean, what are we really going to see in terms of there is on-street parking, and I don't think any of it's signed. There is no residential limits in the neighborhood permit parking or anything like that. So
okay.
Yeah.
That's an easy fix too. I mean, it could be made part of a requirement if you're going to use one of these outposts, that they Uber in, and after they've dropped off their dinghy.
Well, anybody can park in any street at any time.
Like the people that use Cap Pasture Beach, they park out in the streets of East Norwalk, and then they Uber into the beach for free.
Right.
I think we should be forward with some of this, what it takes with the city to, particularly on the east side of the harbor, the Cove Avenue side and Decker Street, to see what it takes. I also think it's important. I feel pretty strongly about reclaiming the public access at all these points with the signage, and
yeah,
I think that's something that needs to happen. I noticed that at Cove Avenue, that site there's a do-it-yourself camera that's private, signs that say it's private, and cameras pointing at Cove Avenue along there, which I think is the city should have a privacy problem with. Actually, people are being photographed on Cove Avenue by the neighbors. So I just think it's something we should have a plan for moving forward, whether it's picking a couple of sites and deciding, what we should put there or whatever. But I think it's something we should, and there'll be some pushback, I think, from some of these street end people, because people have lived there for a long time and never been bothered.
Right. I mean, I think another, if we go the route of allowing and facilitating, tie-up points for boats, how will people, view having, and the other thing is, we have some control over folks with dinghies, but will it just become a dumping ground for kayaks? I mean, I know we have a kayak area in our community, and, by the end of the summer, it's a bit chaos. There's kayaks everywhere. And that may be an issue. I think that may be an issue more than the occasional car down the street, is if it becomes, but, people gotta, a good storm and all those kayaks are, on Sheffield Island, or.
Right. Well, there's a lot to it. If you let people, if you put a dinghy rack in, then there are security issues. It doesn't take long with a bolt cutter to take the dinghy away, somebody coming down. So
well, and that's at risk,
and you have people coming off their boats in their dinghy, and they're going to have a bag of garbage and cans. So at some point, you don't want trash piled up, which happens in a lot of places where the dinghy point is a pile of plastic bags full of crap that are there. So that needs to be, the cities, they need to put trash cans there and things like that. And
well, Alan, that became
it's a very complicated.
It's a complicated issue. When we had campsites out on the island, the city would be responsible for removing the trash cans, which they never did, or not did it a very infrequently. And as a result, they mound it up, they pound it up, and garbage all over the place. Animals getting, birds flying in there, getting all that stuff and throwing it all over the place.
Yeah,
so that was certainly an issue.
But there's just a lot of details that go with this. But I think it's got to dig into it. And maybe it's helpful if we have experiences or pictures of other places around where we've been, or what other communities have to share and inspire us a little bit.
Well, there's a lot of conversation to be had about this moving forward, but this is great. And Chris, if you could flush out what our next moves would be, And if you need any help or anything, just reach out to me or anyone else, and we can, and Jeff in particular, you may know where most of those, the logical places to go, and Pinto would know as well. So let's keep this moving.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. And this is a good piece of work. And it's interesting how things come around and you repeat the things that you once did, and just like you pursue good initiatives. Well, we went through this effort when we were doing the harbor management plan. And the maps we prepared were, of course, nowhere near as good as this. We had the letter-set dots on a piece of paper. But we did have pushback from people in East Norwalk who were concerned about the parking and uses that would conflict with what they said were the traditional uses of their neighborhood. So as a result, we crafted the policy that we did in the plan that talks about making sure these areas, we didn't talk about development of these areas, but we talked about reserving in all instances the opportunities for development of them in the future to avoid the things that Chris is talking about where they're blocked. But we backed off on making specific proposals for the use because of residents who were concerned about the parking and non-residents coming into their neighborhood. But it's certainly a worthwhile exercise, and we did it once before, and we set the policy for doing this now, for pursuing it.
Okay, so let's continue with it.
Yeah.
Sure. I sort of crafted this as a draft, but a draft of something that we would go to DPW with or whoever at the city, who would have the budget and the wherewithal to execute this. So, I mean, I guess DPW is the agency I'm most familiar with. I mean, half the people I know have left, but actually Lisa Burns left. But I do know some people there and can start a conversation. But as far as and I'll make some inquiries and report back. But if anybody has any comments on the report, it's certainly welcome.
Yeah, no, I think you did a great job, Chris, because one thing I liked was the ability, well, what you did was to focus on the South Anchorage and the 4 points. I thought 2 points on the east side, 2 points on the south side, and using the mooring field as a focal point for where the street ends could be used.
Right.
And also, the DOT, I believe, is proposing to use the South Anchorage for mooring, a significant portion of it for mooring their mooring barges during the bridge project.
Right.
Which would be who knows how many years.
Right. All right, so let's move right along. Public comment. I see that there's 1 or 2 people left in the public out there.
I see there's 5 people on. I know particularly Linnell Jones emailed me saying she wanted to speak about the drainage on Wilson Cove. But anybody else, there is 5 people. So if you'd like to speak, use the raise your hand feature and I will bring you over to speak. Is Linnell?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you, all of you. I sent the emails and I know Michelle can share them. I know you have a packed agenda and I appreciate your reviewing my email, getting back to me. Thank you very much.
All right, anybody else?
I don't see anyone else raising their hand.
No, and I think she was the only one left on. The others dropped off earlier. So seeing no more public comment, minutes have been approved. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Don't be so quick, guys. Wow, the 5 hands raised at once. I thought we were having a good time here.
We are.
Great meeting, John. Great meeting, everyone. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Thanks, John.
We'll be in
Take
touch.
care, everybody. Stay safe.
Have a good night, everybody.